Hello everyone, I'm going to do a quick live stream looking at the chance of some pretty severe weather early next week. The computer model runs are developing some quite serious areas of low pressure early next week, and looks like things could get pretty wild for a time early next week. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of screen sharing for you tonight, and we'll see how we get on with that. Can you confirm that you're hearing me okay before do anything else? So yeah, we've got a few hellos. We've got Adam. Hello, Adam. Good evening. Good evening, Shiram. And good evening, Blue Lightning. Good evening, Tudor. Tudor Times and Iceman. Good evening to Iceman. Someone can let me know that you're hearing me. Then we'll do a little bit of streaming. A few more coming in. So Alpha also hello, and Robolox user hi. Yeah, good evening, Robolox. Blue Lightning confirming that you hear me okay, so that's great. And Jack Gerard, bonjour, Jack. Yeah, Tudor Times. Yeah, you're hearing me okay. And Robert, hi, Robert. Sunday Racers, howdy. Jack Gerard, loud and clear. Okay, so obviously you're all hearing me. All right, so we'll do a little screen sharing. That's what I want to try for this one. And we'll have a look at, first of all, we'll start off with a couple of the midday runs of the computer models. And then we'll see what the 6 o'clock run is showing. That's just updating us. We're doing it right now, the GFS 6 o'clock run, pub run, as we used to call it on the forums back in the day. So I'm going to try and get the screen share up for you right now. I've had a few goes of this in private, so hopefully it's going to go okay. So I need to click on the screen share button, and there we go, and I think that should be sharing. So hopefully, if I've done that okay, hopefully you can see the screen. So if I just go back to here, can someone confirm that you are seeing the screen share for me, please? Should be able to see what's showing on the screen right now. So hopefully that's working okay. So we'll try doing a bit of screen sharing. I'm going to go to GFS, and then we'll go to the midday run. So let's just have a quick look at that. So we need to go to 12. So there we go. And this is the area of low pressure has been causing some quite dramatic posts on social media and also on the forums. It's this area of low pressure just here. So again, this is for Monday, midday on Monday, quite a deep area of low pressure beginning to the out to the west. If I go through a little bit later to around 132 hours, let's see how this low pressure develops. So there we go. We've gone to 6 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, and we've got a really deep area of low pressure developing down to the southwest approaches. There's some quite cold air on the northern side of that area of low pressure. So if we go through to midday on Tuesday, look how that low pressure has developed on the midday run of the GFS. I'm not sure what the central pressure of that is, but it looks like it's down to something like 950 millibars, maybe a bit lower. There's some very severe gales wrapped around this area of low pressure. The isobars are very, very tightly packed indeed. So that looks pretty serious, I have to say. So can we just confirm that you are hearing me okay, and that you're seeing what what we're doing. Yeah, you confirm that you're seeing what we're doing. Okay, that's great. So, got some pretty severe winds wrapped around that area of low pressure. You could be talking about gusts possibly going up to 70 or 80 miles an hour with that area of low pressure on its northern and western flank, in particular, also through the channel. So, you'll be talking about severe gales with that. There's quite a lot of cold air wrapped around the northern side of that area of low pressure as well. If we have a look at the 850 HPA temperature, you can see that on the northern western side of that low pressure, got the -5 Celsius isotherm. So that could provide some chance anyway of some snow on the northern side of this area of low pressure. It will very much depend on other factors such as the dew point and the thicknesses, but these are the kind of situations on the northern side of these low pressures you can get snow. So obviously that would be kind of like for northern England, southern Scotland, potentially North Wales as well. Could be one of those situations where you could get a little bit of a dump of snow. I think the main thing though, also obviously a lot of heavy rain would be associated with that, but the main thing would be the winds. I think the winds around an area of low pressure could be up to 70, 80 miles an hour. And it could be really, really nasty indeed from Monday through to Tuesday. Obviously, this is a little way off, so it will probably get downgraded. It's quite unusual to get such a deep storm system sitting over the top of the UK at that time frame. It will probably get downgraded. But it is a little bit alarming that the GFS should come up with such a serious area of low pressure. Now, if we roll on, well, we see what happens as we go through Tuesday afternoon next week. That low pressure moves up into the North Sea. So these severe gales then pushing across many parts of England and Wales. Again, you could see the winds gusting up to like 70, 80 miles an hour as that low pressure clears away into the North Sea. So some very, very strong winds indeed wrapped around that area of low pressure. Could cause coastal flooding if it came off down the east coast, I would have thought. Of course, the cold air is digging in as well. As this low pressure is moving into the North Sea, we have got cold air digging in. So we see on the upper air temperatures that -5 Celsius isotherm is kind of like moving down across the country as that low pressure exits away into the North Sea. So this will see the cold air digging in from the north and possibly a chance of more widespread wintry conditions coming off even further south late on Tuesday. Now, do keep in mind this area of low pressure is very, very likely to downgrade. It almost certainly won't be as bad as this is shown. But if it was to come off, big if, we would be looking at a very, very noteworthy spell of severe and stormy weather through sort of late Monday, most of Tuesday, and even lasting into Wednesday. It's midnight Wednesday, and the low pressures in the North Sea with those really, really severe gales running down the eastern coast as well. Low pressure eventually pushes off into Denmark, and things start to calm down through the middle of next week, although it is looking cold. We're in a proper sort of northerly wind there. And then we see the winds backing more in towards the west as we go through to the latter stages of next week. We start to bring milder air in from off the Atlantic Ocean. So the worst of the stormy weather and potentially quite cold weather clears away to our east. So there's by no means a heat wave. It's still quite chilly, even as we start to move up towards day 10. It remains pretty chilly. So that's how the midday run of the GFS was looking. Let's have a look at the UK Met, because that was also coming up with a pretty severe storm situation. So this is how things are looking on Saturday. We're into a showery sort of airstream on Saturday. That Sunday, quite a deep area of low pressure, even on Sunday, could bring some pretty strong winds, maybe up to gale force to the far south and southwest of the country, and also quite a bit of rain as well. Then we go through to Monday, and that's when we have this little bump of high pressure then on Monday, just ahead of this developing area of low pressure. So Monday might be a quieter day. It's all down to timings. We might bring this area of low pressure in quicker, in which case Monday won't be much of a day. But on this solution, we're actually under a very, very slight transient bump of high pressure. So Monday is potentially slightly calmer. Then that low pressure really winds itself up as we go through to Tuesday. So the UK Met at 144 hours is kind of like where the GFS midday run was as well. And it's a little bit further north with the low pressure. So the cold sector with this is kind of like to the far northwest. So it's more for northern Scotland and probably down in towards Northern Ireland. That's where you'd have a risk of a little bit of snow. Elsewhere, probably relatively mild with the air, actually. But again, the main thing we're focusing on with this low pressure at the moment is not cold and snow particularly, although there would be a bit of that around, particularly if at all. The main thing would be the winds, because again, see very, very tight packed ice bars, perhaps not quite as horrendously tightly packed with the UK Met as it is with the GFS, but nevertheless, that's still really windy. That will still bring gales, severe gale force winds, gusts up to 60, 70, 80 miles an hour through parts of Ireland and into England and Wales as well. Obviously, when you're under the very centre of that low pressure, and on this scenario, the centre of the low pressure, kind of like the southern Scotland, when you're under the centre of the low, winds are actually light. The isobars are opened out. It's typically around the western and southern side of the low pressure, where the wind and the gradient tends to be at its strongest. So the UK Met was also going for a pretty nasty storm. There was certainly a named storm, as would the GFS, of course. I think it'd be Storm Gareth, assuming we don't have any named storms before early next week. So I think it's Storm Gareth. Obviously, both these models are going for pretty nasty weather early next week. I'll just show you the ECMWF, and then I'll have a look at the 6 o'clock GFS run, which, as I say, is updating as we're talking. So this is how the ECMWF was looking. Again, we see that on Sunday, we're in these pretty strong, chilly, showery northwesterly winds. Not as windy, though, on Sunday as the UK Met has it. That's Monday. Again, we've got that very, very slight little bump of high pressure, very transient, ahead of this next deep area of low pressure that's out to our west. And then we go through to Tuesday, and you see the low pressure much further north, not as wound up. So this at this point, midday Tuesday, the GFS and the UK Met are both going for pretty serious winds. The ECM is not as bad. It's got the low pressure a lot further north. It is a windy day. It's a wet and windy day, just standard wet and windy fare, really. Winds probably got to around 60 miles an hour in northern and western parts of the country. So it is pretty windy. Other areas up to 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. So it is a windy day, probably up to gale force for the northwest. But it isn't anywhere near as bad as what the GFS and the UK Met are showing, because the low pressure is that much further north. It's much further north, and it isn't anywhere near as wound up. The extended range with the ECM looks like that. So actually on Wednesday the 13th, we do bring down some pretty strong, quite cold northwesterly winds. They could drag in wintry showers to northern and western parts of the country, probably again up to gale force for the northwest. Then that low pressure goes scooting off into central parts of Europe, and we build up a very, very slight ridge of high pressure then. And then into the extended range, we again look very unsettled actually up to day 10 on the latest ECM, the low pressure to the north of Scotland. And again, we're bringing in these west-northwesterly winds. So all in all, looking pretty unsettled right up to day 10 with the ECMWF tonight. But we don't get that very, very severe spell of winds Monday and Tuesday that we see on the GFS and on the UK Met. Let's have a look and see what the GFS 6 o'clock run is doing then as it's updated. So the key time frame really is around sort of 120 hours, something like that. So this is Monday, how things are looking at 6 o'clock in the evening on Monday. Deep area of low pressures to the north of Scotland then. So quite wet and windy conditions moving in across the country. But does it develop anything into a major storm? Let's see what happens as we get through to Tuesday. So we have got a weather front here that's through the country. The weather front would be kind of like from Scotland and along the elongation, the isobars going down towards the Bay of Biscay at midnight on Tuesday. But does that wave develop into a deep area of low pressure? Let's see. So it doesn't look like it's going to do it on the 6 o'clock run of the GFS. It does have a go. It brings some pretty nice winds into France, actually. So if anybody's watching this in France, this is being shunted further south, and that developing area of low pressure through to Tuesday morning is a bring gales or possibly severe gales to France. For us, everything is that bit further southwards with that low pressure. So we're actually further into colder air, and there's a little bit more wintry potential with that then through Tuesday. So the winds are less. Winds aren't as severe. There's a low pressure developing over the Low Countries at midday on Tuesday. Remember at this time frame, the midday run of VGFS has this low pressure as a very intense feature across central parts of the UK. Now it's kind of like sitting over the Low Countries. It does bring pretty stormy winds to France here, but for us, we're actually more into the cold air. So less of a risk of severe gales with this for us on this solution, but also rather colder, rather more wintry potential. You'd be bringing troughs and little features down from the north and northwest. So that's less of a risk of gales or severe gales, but possibly a greater risk of snow, particularly for northern parts of the country, but maybe a little bit further south. Let's have a look at the upper air temperatures there. And yeah, you can see that the -5 iceberg is through the country. So in theory, it would depend on dew points and thicknesses as well, of course. But in theory, potentially that could bring some wintry conditions. In fact, we can see the dew point. Let's just have a look at that. And you see, but well, we can't really make it out all that well. But I can tell you about the freezing dew point is pushing down in towards the far south of the country. So there is more in way of wintry potential with that. With this 6 o'clock in the evening pub run, if you like, GFS run, and it's less stormy. The winds are nowhere near as bad with this, but there is greater wintry potential. So you pay your money and you take your choice, really. The winds are less, which is good news. I think, really, we don't want very severe stormy winds, but there is a bit more wintry potential. Let's see what it did as we go to around 168 hours. And by then, we start to bat winds into the west again. So milder air is trying to come back in from the Atlantic Ocean. Let's go to 189 hours as far as we can get. And we're beginning to try and draw some milder air in from off the Atlantic. So not as stormy, but it is colder through the early part of next week with the GFS 6 o'clock in the evening run. Last thing I want to look at before we turn off screen share, and I'll answer a few of your questions. Then we'll go through some of the comments and questions. Let's have a look at the icon and see what that was doing. So we want to go to there. We want to go to icon just there, and we'll see what that was doing. So this up to 120 hours, looking like that, quite wet and windy. This is the 6 o'clock in the evening icon run. Let's have a look at the midday run, see what that did. So this again, this is for Monday, 6 o'clock in the evening on Monday, looking just generally wet and windy. Really, let's go through to midday on Tuesday, and the low pressure is to the east of Scotland. So it is the position of this area of low pressure is varying a lot. We've got the midday run of the GFS and the midday UK Met Office run that has it more or less over the top of the UK as quite an intense feature. The 6 o'clock GFS run has it more over the France and the Low Countries on Tuesday. The icon midday run had it off the east coast of Scotland. So this is trying to bring colder air into the north. Actually, it's not that cold. The wind is mainly from the west. So it is windy, it's showery, it's quite wet. Not severe winds, though, and not particularly wintry. Let's see how the icon then progresses. It just keeps the winds in from west, so this one doesn't go particularly cold at all. So there's a lot of different options on the table here with this area of low pressure early next week. So I think it's just going to be one to watch, one we have to keep an eye on, but the potential is there for something really quite nasty. Now, let's just very quickly have a look at one of the GFS ensemble members that I saw. I think Siren was tweeting about this. Our good friend Siren. It's P14, I think. So this is from the GFS ensembles from the midday run, P14. And if we go to 144 hours, look at that. That's about as stormy as it will get. It's overdone. It's over the top. The central pressure of that must be going down to about 930 millibars, I would have thought. It's very difficult to make out what the central pressure is because the isobars are so tightly packed. But that is very, very extreme. And obviously, if that came off, I mean, you would be talking about that area of low pressure for a very long time. That would be historic weather, obviously life-threatening weather with that, but it would be very, very memorable, very historic weather event if that came off. But it is, I'm almost about 90% certain that is overdone and over the top. Eventually, it does pull down a very, very strong and pretty cold northerly wind as well. Have a quick look at the 850 upper air temperature. You can see cold air is dinging in from the north. If we run on to another 24 hours, you see we are within cold air, though milder air is already trying to re-establish from the west. That's over the top. That's overdone. It's one of those charts that it's probably worth saving to look back on just how horrendous an area of low pressure the GFS ensembles can sort of come up with, but it does look pretty over the top, and I think we discount that. But obviously there is a chance of some pretty severe weather through the early part of next week, wet and windy, possibly very stormy, and don't rule out the chance of something wintry happening, particularly for northern parts of the country. Right, I'm going to turn off the screen share. And what we'll do next then is I'll go through and start answering a few of your questions. So let's just go and have a look at some of your questions and see what you're saying. So if we can scroll down into the chat, let's see what you're saying. So if you can give me a few of your questions, and we'll attempt to answer one or two of those. Let's just go through to here and see what you're all saying. So I'm just trying to get the chat up now. And let's see if we can get to the latest. So if anyone wants to ask me one or two questions, that would be really welcome, and we'd certainly enjoy that. So I'll just go back through some of the comments actually. So let's see if we can get back to a few of your comments just here. So Rowan is saying, do I remember him? Yes, I do remember you, Rowan. Let's have a look at a few more of your questions. So we're going to scroll down. We're going to see what we can do. So we've got, just going through the chat now, guys. So I'm going to see if I can come up with one or two other questions. So Christopher Smith, you point out nothing like Alabama with the massive tornadoes. No, that's right, Christopher. We don't get those huge and very serious and damaging tornadoes that we used to get, that they get over in America, that they used to get over there. We don't get those kind of tornadoes in the UK. We can get little tornadoes, but they're not particularly severe generally. Let's have a look at Paul Jenkinson. The great storm in the UK was during grand solar minimum, so expect extreme weather to intensify as the Earth's magnetic fields weaken. So I don't know a great deal about that, Paul, but let's hope we don't see too many of those severe winds. Let's scroll down. So Savvy is saying it's like to finally catch a stream. Well, we've only done 2 so far, Savvy. So well, except ones that are done with Quantum, of course they're on Quantum's channel, but we haven't done any live streams other than the 2 that I've been testing out up to now on Gav's Web. These live streams will become more frequent as going to the summer. I'm just learning the craft, if you like, learning the about live streaming, learning how to use screen share, etc., etc. And once I'm up to speed, the live streams will become more frequent in the summer, and then obviously through to next winter. But we've only done 2 so far, so you haven't missed much, don't worry. Shiram is saying, Gavin, do you think we will make up rainfall deficit in March? So it's going to be very difficult to make up rainfall deficit in March, Shiram, because it's been so dry for so long. So I mean, obviously any rainfall is helpful, but we need, I think, to wait a few weeks, maybe a few months, to really make up that rainfall deficit. If you've had like sort of 6-9 months of consistently dry weather, then you're going to struggle to make that up in 2 or 3 weeks. So any rainfall at the moment is useful, but I have to say I don't think we'll be making up the rainfall deficit at this point. Let's see if we can have a look at 1 or 2 more. Well, we've got global weather update saying hi Gav, hi global. We've got Foxy Weather 123. Can we please have a Atlantic onslaught forever, please? So I think Foxy enjoys westerly winds. I think people would get pretty fed up with that if it went on too long, Foxy. Let's have a look at this one. So I've got Carl Lynch, famous last words. I think that's probably related to me saying that P14 is over the top and won't come off. So I'll put my neck on the block. If P14 does come off, then obviously I'm going to look a bit silly, but I think that was over the top. But as you say, famous last words. Jack Gerard, when will a storm be named? Gav, so I think you're talking about the area of low pressure early next week. When will that get named? Probably over the weekend, I would have thought, if it's still showing as some of the computer models have it. I think it'll probably be over the weekend that this storm gets named. Global weather updates. Northeast England could see snow briefly on Thursday afternoon, mainly on higher routes. So yeah, it's certainly up for the northern parts of the country. There's certainly a little bit of wintry potential in the next few days. Roblox user 143, Gav, when will we firm up on the detail about the storm? So it's going to be over the next few days. The models will sort of work it out, the track and low pressure, how much it develops. They'll work it out over the next few days. We should have a pretty clear idea, I would have thought, by Saturday, hopefully, when I'm doing a weekend broadcast. Gary Boston, summer. Any chance of more thunderstorms this summer? So, Gary, last summer was very poor for thunderstorms, and it was just consistently hot and dry. But although there was a lot of energy within the atmosphere, there really wasn't all that many thunderstorms to go. And except for very isolated ones, they were pretty serious storms, actually, although there weren't many of them. People that found themselves under the storms last summer, they really suffered a little bit. I know our good friend James Acril, Analogs Guru, suffered a bit with one of the thunderstorms last summer, did a lot of damage in terms of hail. So although there weren't many storms around last summer, the ones that did occur, when they occurred, they were pretty nuts because there was so much energy in the atmosphere from it being so very hot. But it's difficult to say at this point whether there will be more storms than last summer. This summer in 2019, we're beginning the summer updates at weekend on Sunday. So I think we just have to sort of wait and see really what happens with summer updates, how they trend. I'm very unsure about this. I have seen some data that James got together for us that does suggest there might be the chance of another hot summer coming up, and you'll see more about that in the next few weeks. One thing in particular does point towards chance of quite a hot summer, but I'm very, very unsure about this summer at the moment, particularly now the weather has deteriorated from February, because this has all reminded me rather a lot of February 1998, and again February to March and April, I suppose, 1998, and also February to March 2008. This all seems to be playing out quite similar to those 2 years, and those 2 years had summer in May, and then the summers themselves were really quite poor. So I'm a little bit uncertain about this summer and what it's going to have to offer us at this point. Let's have a look at 1 or 2 more. So what wind gusts was the GFS showing? That's from Harvey Harbour. So Harvey, I'm not sure, but I was assuming that sort of coastal areas will almost certainly be up to kind of like 90 or 100 miles an hour with the midday GFS run. Obviously, you would have lighter winds with the 6 o'clock in the evening GFS run because the low pressure is being shunted off down towards the south over France, and it isn't anywhere near as developed or wound up. So the 6 o'clock in the evening GFS run, the winds will be a lot lighter. But that midday GFS run, I think around coastal areas, northern and western coast, probably through the English Channel, you'll be talking about 80, 90 mile an hour, probably a gust somewhere going up to 100 mile an hour. And definitely that with P14, with ensemble member number 14 going up to kind of like 90 to 100 miles an hour. Do bear in mind, it almost certainly won't come off. Let's have a look at one or two more and we'll see. We've got Peter Brown saying, hi Gav, long time viewer, and really appreciate your work with the vids. Do you think this is the last gasp of winter? So Peter, that's an interesting question, actually. And what I would say about that is what I was just talking about in terms of 2008 and also 1998. So they both have warm and dry second halves to February. Well, in 1998, kind of like more the middle of February. The whole month in February 1998 was generally quite warm and dry. Also, we found that what happened is that went into March and weather deteriorated, turned quite unsettled, turned quite stormy. But it wasn't particularly cold through March. The coldest weather actually hit through April of 1998. Then we've got the example of 2008, where again we had a very dry and at times quite warm second half to February in 2008. Then we went through to March 2008. It got more unsettled, but it was cold in the second half of March 2008, which tended to coincide with Easter as well. There's a notable white Easter in 2008, and those cold conditions then extended out into the early part of April. It wasn't really until the middle second half of April 2008 that things started to turn milder and it warmed up a little bit. So what I think we need to say about this is that it could get a little bit colder actually in the second half of March or maybe early April if we keep trending along the lines of 1998 and also 2008. If we keep trending along those lines, it may well be that things will get rather colder as we begin to move into the second half of March, possibly even early April, but I'm not sure it'd go quite that far. Analogues when we did the spring forecast at the weekend was suggesting early April is likely to be a rather drier and slightly warmer month compared to March. So it might be kind of like mid to sort of second to third week of March. I think that's perhaps the point we have to be watching out for the chance anyway of some wintry conditions. But certainly for northern parts of the country, I think this could turn out to be quite a coldish sort of March actually. Down in the south probably won't be that cold. We started off very mild, of course, across southern parts of the country, but I'm thinking the north, I think wouldn't be at all surprised if we came out with quite a coldish month. Let's see if there's any more of your chats coming through, and then we're probably winding up. It's getting quite late, so we'll go back and have a look, see if we can find one or two more. So Robert was asking, what's your thoughts on the GM being consistent with a potent low on Sunday? So GM is one of those funny models, Robert. It can get a bit stuck in its guns, but it can get a bit sort of stuck with its ideas, and it can get itself stuck in a rut a little bit. But you really need other model support before you take the GM too seriously. That's not to say the GM won't come off with its idea of quite a potent low and a nasty area of low pressure on Sunday, but there's not a huge amount of cross model support on that. So again, I think we just have to wait and see how the other models trend with that, but certainly will be a rather showery, windy, quite wet day. But I wouldn't necessarily take the GM on its own, even though it is being quite consistent. One or two more. So LB Graves Media, any chance of snow next month? So I think you're talking about within the next month, so kind of like the rest of March going through to April, LB. So again, I was saying there is a wintry potential here within the model output, particularly for northern parts of the country, but not exclusively so. Savvy, winter bites Bites. Winter Bites can persist through March and even into April. So yeah, we just explained that with 1998 and also 2008. It got pretty cold. Both examples, there was cold weather and snow. It's certainly in early April with both examples. So yeah, I totally wouldn't rule that out, sadly. Wouldn't rule out chance of pretty cold conditions continuing into the sort of early to mid part of the spring. Anyway, Alexander Ashby, why did Storm Freya hit the north so late? So just one of those random things, Alexander, one of those random weather events, I think. Peter Brown, hi Gav, long time viewer, and really appreciate your work with events. Do you think this is last after winter? I've already answered that. And thanks for your lovely kind words as well, Peter. It really is lovely to know that people are enjoying what we're doing. Tommy Roach, by the way, Gav, love the videos, explanations for these subject knowledge like me, very much appreciated. Thanks so much, Tommy. If you want to do anything for us, then just subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up on the videos, give us a like, and let us know that you're enjoying what we're doing. But thanks so much for those lovely kind words. And we've got global weather updates. I agree, we could see a cold March, early April, too far ahead to tell. So yeah, just have to wait and see how things evolve. And Harvey asking, Gab, do you like snow or sunny and warm weather? So I just like getting the forecast right, Harvey. When I was younger, I did enjoy snow along with everybody else on the forums. When I started back in the 2000s, I was a younger man then. I'm at the age now where I can take it or leave it, really. But I do like to get the forecast right. That's my primary interest. So whether it's gales, whether it's snow, whether it's heavy rain, whatever the weather we're doing, whatever weather we're forecasting, I primarily like to get the weather right. But of course, I do like to see a little bit of snow, especially, of course, over the holiday period, over Christmas. It's quite nice to see a little bit of snow then. Right, so I think we're done with the live stream. So hopefully it went okay. So I'm learning the craft as I'm going along. It's only the third live stream that I've done. It's the first time I've incorporated, first time that I've managed to incorporate screen share as well. So I'm hopefully I'm improving as we're going along. It's going to take me a while. This is very different to what I normally do. Normally I sit down in front of a webcam and I've got the charts all loaded up and I can do videos in a very controlled way. This is something very different. Doing a screen share live, looking at your comments live. So it's pretty hard for me to get used to it. I'm hoping that I'm going to get better with it, and by the time we get through to the summer, hopefully we'll be able to start doing some scheduled live streams. I understand, but as I'm doing live streams now, it's quite late and they're unscheduled. I'm not publicizing these at all. We're just doing them very much on the fly, primarily because if anything goes wrong while I'm doing it, then it's not too bad if only a few people are watching compared to if I've got like a couple of hundred people watching, as I would if I really publicized it and gave it a lot of plugs and that. So it's better for me while I'm learning if it's better for me while I'm learning if I just do them unscheduled and late in the evening when it's just you and me, and we have a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of fun, and nobody is going to mind too much if anything goes wrong. But once I'm up to speed with it, then obviously, yes, we will start doing proper scheduled live streams. I'll embed the videos into Gazzo's website and on the social media accounts, and we'll start doing some proper live streaming. So just stick with it, just stick with me, and we will get there together on this journey. Right, so I'm going to say good night, and we'll see what the morning model runs have in store. I think they'll be quite interesting to see how many of tomorrow morning's model runs are still going for those horrendous winds on Tuesday. Hopefully, the models will back down on it, and we won't see anything too disruptive early next week. But we'll wait and see what the morning runs bring us. All right, good night, and thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and good night.